Good morning. It's Dave of Urban Astro. I had recorded about a week or so ago the introductory video to this particular video, and apparently the video did not record, and so I found myself having to come up with a different introduction, if you will. And so what I decided to do is to show you all one of the tools that I use for my planning. Oftentimes I will sit down and I'll plan out what objects I would like to shoot for the coming season. And one of the tools that I find to be incredibly useful is one called Telescopius, and it's free for everyone to use. It's telescopius.com, and if you set up an account, which is free, doesn't cost anything, you can use your existing Google login, you can use some others, I believe, I think Facebook, or you can just set up a separate account. But once you've done that, it enables you then to enter in all of your equipment, and every time you log in, it has all of your equipment ready for you to use, which I'll show you here in just a minute. One of the nice things about this particular tool is that it shows you kind of what's available each night. And you can see here, it says, what's in the sky tonight in Phoenix. That's where I'm at. Then I get a choice between bright nebula. So here's different bright nebula that I can go for. The Witch Head or the Running Man or Demarin's Nebula, otherwise probably known as the Orion Nebula. There's dark nebula that I can go for, but then you get diffuse nebula and galaxies and galaxy clusters and globular clusters for those that like globular clusters, open clusters, and for those who like planetary nebula. Here's the dumbbell. You can still capture some hours in the dumbbell where I'm at. The crab is coming in. I can still capture some hours on the helix. And then any supernova like the jellyfish nebula, which is a really cool target, and so forth. So it basically shows you what is available that night. You can also search on targets. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and search on IC 1396. Which is the Elephant Trunk Nebula. And here we are. And so the basic page here, it shows you essentially other people's images of the elephant trunk, and you can view all these so that you can get a sense as to how you might want to frame the target. I look through these sometimes just to get a sense as to what other people have captured and what they've done. Like this one here, I'm not too sure why that's there, but here's this. Yeah, so you get a sense as to what other people are shooting and what they're capturing. But what's really important for me is this chart over here shows me when does it rise, when does it hit the meridian, and about how many hours of imaging time am I going to be able to get. So if I keep it at 25 degrees, it sets basically for me at 25 degrees in the sky at 1 a.m., 1:09 a.m., and I can start imaging it pretty much after it, pretty much at the meridian when it's up at 66 degrees, and I can start shooting it at 6:47. So that gives me about 6 hours of imaging time on this particular target if I was to shoot it tonight. So this right here is helpful. But this is where it really makes its money for me. And that is, you can put in all of your equipment into this telescope simulator. So here I have all of my telescopes and all the different variations with the reducers and all that. And in this particular case, I'm shooting with just my Astro Tech 80 EDT. So I'm going to select that, and you can see here's what the framing would look shooting with my 80 EDT. Now I can also come down here and I can select which camera I want to shoot with. And right now I've got 3 profiles set up. I've got 4 cameras, but the other camera that's not in here shares the same profile as this guy. It's the same sensor size, the same sensor resolution, so, and that's the AP26CC from OMGA. So in this case, I'm going to shoot monochrome, and I'm going to shoot with my 2600. So I got that there selected. And the nice thing is you can actually rotate your framing, as you can see here, to kind of see what's possible. Now I'm going to do a 2-panel mosaic. And I shot it pretty much at about 180 degrees. So the next button down here, this is where you set up your mosaic. So in this case, I'm going to do a 2x2 panel, and I shot it at 30% overlap. And so here is my framing that I had selected for the Elephant Trunk Nebula IC 1396. And so now I'm going to show you some of the capturing that I did during the 4 nights for each panel. I basically did 4 nights for each panel. About at that point in time, it was a couple weeks back, so I was getting about 7 hours of integration time for each night, and I did each panel for 4 nights. So this has a fair amount of integration, and then by the time I got rid of all of the subs that I did not like, that had issues, I think I ended up somewhere in the neighborhood of about almost 20 hours per panel for integration. Okay, so here's my processed images here in PixInsight, just to show you what they looked like when they came out of AstroPixel processor. And I use APP largely because of the way that it handles mosaics. It's able to blend them pretty seamlessly. It's very difficult here in this image to figure out where the seam is between the 2 panels. The seam is, I don't know, somewhere in here, but it's really hard to define where that seam is or where it should be. I use APP, so this right here is the hydrogen alpha. This one here is actually the sulfur. It says that it is oxygen, but I have my oxygen and my sulfur filters mixed up. And I only discovered that when I opened up my filter tray, because things weren't working out right, and I had to open up my filter wheel to actually see what I had in place, only to discover that I had swapped my sulfur and my oxygen. So this says oxygen is actually sulfur, and then the sulfur here is actually my oxygen. So I did my regular processing here. I did cropping here, as you can see. There's the crop process. I did linear fit in order to get everything so that they were pretty close to being the same luminance values. Basically what my work process flow is I will do a dynamic crop, and then I'll follow that with a linear fit, and then I'll do automatic background extraction. And if ABE doesn't seem to work, then I'll go ahead and I'll use dynamic background extraction and go through the process of trying to extract the background using that particular process. And if that doesn't give me a result that I like, then I'll go to the heavy duty guy, which is Graxpert. And there's a lot of YouTube videos out about Graxpert. And then usually what I'll do is I'll do some blur exterminator, and then once I've got the blur exterminator done, I then generally do star exterminator, and that removes the stars, and I do that in the linear state, and I get my stars, and you can see stars there, And then usually what I will do is I will then use histogram transform and stretch the images, so that way I get stretched images like you see here, the hydrogen. Actually, this one here is a better one, yeah. So you get the hydrogen alpha here, so you can see it's stretched, and here's the oxygen stretched. And then once I've got that done, I've got a set of scripts here that I believe came from a lot of different places, Bill Blanchard and just other places that I found on the internet where people put out, said, hey, I've got this formula to make a great SHO. So basically I've got a basic SHO, an advanced, and then a contrasty one. I generally tend to either go with basic or advanced. I find that the contrasty one is a little too contrasty. And then if I'm going to do an HOO like I've got here, here's a HOO image of the Elephant Trunk Nebula, IC 1396. I usually will go with the basic or advanced HOO. And then there's Bill Blanchard's narrowband normalization. And I don't run this on the HOO because it makes it into a SHO, which isn't what I wanted. I really want just an HOO. So for instance, if I was just to accept these figures here, let me open this thing up. Yeah, see, here's what it looks like. It becomes an SHO image, and that's not what I want. I want to keep it as an HOO image. So I'm not sure. I'm probably doing something wrong. I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong yet, but I'm sure I'm doing something wrong. Yeah. HA03. Yeah. I don't know. I'm still playing with it, but yeah, so I use this narrowband normalization for like the SHO images that I've got, and it does a great job. But for the HOO, it wants to make it a SHO. So, and then what I've done is, I hate to bore you with all this tedium here, but then I make a bunch of masks, and I'm trying to do different things with these masks, like negate some of the blue cast that's in the background is this one, and then this one here is to emphasize more of the blue, and especially in this particular image here, the HOO, I really kind of like that blue contrast against this pink and red. And again, I use them both against the HOO image here and the SHO image right here. So these are the final images that I've come up with, and they're works in progress. I'll probably continue to work on them. They're not done by any stretch of the imagination. What I really like about the Elephant Trunk Nebula here is just all the dark clouds, all the dark clouds of dust and gas. This ranks right up there for me, like with the Rosette Nebula, with all the dark if I can speak, it'd be great, Bach nodules, which you can see through here, these little things of really dark gas, dust clouds. And I just really love this nebula because of that aspect of it. It's just all this dark gas and dust clouds. One of the other things that I'll run, which I didn't mention, is there's a great script up here that comes with PixInsight, and it's the dark structure enhance script. And what that does is that helps to enhance some of these dark structures that you see within the nebula. Once I join my stars back in, which I just use a basic script, it's just, adding them together. I then will do noise exterminator, And then I'll probably will go back to my curves transformation and play with curves a little bit more. Maybe do another S curve, apply one of the filters, and you play with the curves like you would in Photoshop, trying to emphasize and de-emphasize certain things. And that's pretty much it. So here is my SHO image. Let me go ahead and expand this guy. That's not what I want. I want that. So here's my SHO image of IC 1396. The Elephant Trunk Nebula. You can see the elephant trunk right there. And you see a lot of the dark gas there. So that's my SHO. And then this is my HO. And one thing that I discovered is that if you do a wider view of this thing, you actually will end up capturing two planetary nebulae. Or at least I think that they are. There's this structure right over here. This conglomeration right there. Again, this is an HOO. And then if I come down over here, there's another small little structure down here. Where is it? Yeah, right here. Another little bit of, looks like hydrogen alpha right there. In fact, if I open up the hydrogen alpha, yeah, I first thought that they were, that's not the one I want. I want this one, there we go. I first thought that they were aberrations in my capture, but it's not. It's actually, there's some nebulosity there. So this is the hydrogen alpha capture here. These two little, I'm assuming that they're planetary nebula. I'm going to have to see if I can find out what they are. I've got Barnum's books. I'm going to have to read through Barnum's books. I don't know if these would have been in Barnum's books or not. But so anyways, if you think this is at all interesting, please feel free to like this video and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And until next time, clear skies and happy guiding.